Lindsey, Bolton, and Anthony Tellez, both of you are running against incumbent Democrats. Is that correct? What do you know about their stance on drug enforcement and drug policy, and what do you two propose?
Yeah, so on that question, I'm actually not running against an incumbent. I'm running against his 20-year legislative assistant who basically was going to walk into this job unchallenged. So, surprise to him, I'm entering the race. And they haven't really done a whole lot in terms of helping alleviate the issue of people that are being put away for drug-related offenses. But before I get into that, I kind of wanted also to touch on the drug war, and I just wanted to say that it's an abysmal failure. Over the last 2 years, there's about 800 people killed a month in Mexico because of this insane policy we have with trying to ban marijuana. The street price of pot hasn't gone down, and the gangs are only getting more violent. There's various trafficking routes that you can find online that show the infiltration of the cartels, and I don't know if everyone can see this, but I mean, these are the routes. Like, we are in Juarez, the Juarez cartel's territory. I mean, it's well known that there are violent criminal elements that are going to continue to do this because it's profitable. We need to take that rug out from underneath them and just create private industry that can outcompete them and will bring income and revenue that will be used to treat people with, treat people that have, issues with drugs. So I think that my opponent doesn't I don't see him as being somebody who actually understands the drug problem. The state of Virginia spends about $24,000 a year to incarcerate an individual. And if you look at how much we spend on education, we spend about $9,000 a year. And that's just insane. We spend twice as much to incarcerate somebody when we could spend, an extra $5,000 on that person, rehabilitate them, make them a functional person in society, and contribute to society. A lot of these people are there for first-time offenses of smoking pot, or they come out and they break, they break their parole because they roll a joint with their friend, and they're back in and costing the taxpayer lots of money. We can't. It's not sustainable. And if we continue to go down this path, we are going to look like California, where the prison industrial complex is the majority of the budget there.
And we're just shipping all this money to those cartels Anthony hit on. Shipping all that money. I'm a capitalist. I want to make all that money, keep all that money here. In my district, 33rd district, historically agricultural district, we have the best farmers, if not in Virginia, in the whole daggone nation. And we can grow better weed than they can grow. I got the cup.
I think that everyone at this table has just about covered all of it. But, as far as the incumbent, Bob doesn't do anything. He just doesn't. So I don't even know that he has a stance. Maybe he just says, well, it's nothing but a bunch of rich white kids sitting around smoking pot in my district, so who cares? They never get busted.
Lindsey, Bob is...
Oh, Bob Briggs, sorry, the incumbent. I call him Bob,
Democrat incumbent.
Democrat, yeah. But you have to look at it statewide too, and all of the reasons that everybody at this table brought up. But the one that I think is really significant is just the impact that this has on families. It's something that's grown in the ground. We're not talking about a synthetic drug here. And it can literally tear apart families whenever the state becomes involved. So Rob actually said something that really struck a chord. It really stood out for me, and I think it's just so completely spot on, not just on this issue, but on all of our issues. He said, move as far as the public is willing to accept. And if that means on the marijuana issue, it starts at decriminalization as opposed to full-on legalization because that's all the public's willing to accept, then fine, we start there. I don't think that on this that they won't take more. But I think that really resonated on all of our issues, because on so many things, you know, the people at this table and in this room we tend to be considered just a tad bit radical sometimes. And, you know, just a tad. But, you know, kind of getting a feel for, you know, how far are they going to let us go? And we go absolutely as far as they will let us.
Thank you.
Can I add something?
Yes.
One reason, I forgot to add this in my answer, one reason I think we should push for legalization of marijuana, according to the Virginia chapter of the National Organization for Reform Marijuana Laws, 84% of people are okay with medical marijuana in Virginia, and something like 70 or 72% are okay with decriminalizing. 52% are okay with just legalizing flat out. So that's why I'm targeting that. Just enough people are on board, so that's what we do first. Next. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I want to talk about guns for a moment. Since the tragic shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School last year, the rights of gun owners have been threatened by renewed calls for tighter gun control and expanded background checks. Anthony Tellez, you are a decorated competitive marksman, lifelong shooter, firearms enthusiast. This scenario you know well. Specific to Virginia, what legislation would you bring forward to protect the Second Amendment rights of all Virginians?
Yeah, so in terms of legislation, I actually am pushing for a constitutional amendment, and that constitutional amendment would be the right to concealed carry. I am a former Arizona resident, and in 2010, Arizona passed the constitutional carry bill. And since that time, crime rates in Arizona have gone down significantly. They were already on the decline. They were declining at about 38.5%, which is twice as much as the national average. I think that having people that are true first responders, or even allowing people to have the option to have self-defense available, decreases crime because it deters criminals from attacking innocent people. And I think that we also need to, if we go through with a constitutional carry law, it allows people to get past the bureaucracy of trying to get a concealed carry permit. I have a concealed carry permit, and it took about basically the exact amount of time that by state law the maximum amount of time they were allowed to delay before they could give it to me, simply because that's how the state works. I think I submitted my application around November, and I didn't get it back until January. And during this time, I wasn't allowed to carry my firearm in my car simply because there are too many complex issues with open carry laws. You can't have your gun in certain places in your car, like your console or your glove box. It has to be in plain sight, which means if you have a holster or it's on your side, what happens when a cop pulls you over and it's kind of tucked behind your side? Is that in plain sight or is it not? It's up to the discretion of the officer, and I don't think that that's fair. I think that if we go to one standard, which is everybody's allowed to concealed carry, we don't have to have our right to be at the discretion of the arresting officer or at the kindness of the officer. So that's what I'm going to advocate for. There are other issues that I would also advocate for. The other one would also be a law which would make a federal assault weapons ban unenforceable in Virginia. It would criminalize anybody who attempts to work with, or I'm sorry, it would make it a civil offense to work with the federal government to enforce a assault weapons ban. So if they want to come around and confiscate, the Virginia State Police and the local police will not be assisting the federal government in that endeavor.
Mr. Haggerty.